Hi everyone, this course here with another video for you today, covering just some of the hobby stuff that I've been up to. So you might have noticed that the videos over the last couple of weeks have slowed down. That is a combination of really nice weather and also I've been really busy doing a lot of hobby stuff, trying to get things prepared for a new wave of sort of battle reports. So I thought what I'd do today is actually just run over some of the stuff I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And one of the first things is I've been building the new black mask stuff. I recently unboxed that on the channel. I got those put together last night. You can see here is black mask all fully put together with a bit of a wonky table. It's that soft resin, so it was really easy to fit onto the base, but it does mean that it's a little bit wonky if you look at it, but it's grand. I was sort of in two minds between the 40mm and the 60mm base for black mask. And I eventually just went for the 40mm base just because I feel like the 60mm is sort of very flat and empty. I feel like there's just a lot of empty space. So I figured I'd go for the 40mm, and Black Mask isn't exactly a character I think that deserves a 60mm. I know that's shooting some shots out there, but I think 40mm suits him perfectly. And then I've put together quite a lot of the Black Mask thugs. So here's the guy with the mobile phone and the bolt cutters. You can see I've undercoated him now as well. I'm getting ready to paint these guys because actually, I think my next battle report will probably take place with these guys. I want to try them out. I really fell in love with the organized crime deck. I really like it. I like its kind of killing potential. So I figured that I would play with the newest models as soon as possible. Here is Black Mask Thug 2. You can see here, he is the one with the sniper rifle. He's standing on a wall. Now this wall was originally, it was sort of done, you know, where it's meant to go in the middle. Then his foot was sort of hanging over the side, so I ended up just cutting that off, filled up the gap in the middle with green stuff, and then kind of put it off to one side. I think it looks okay now that it's been undercoated, but I think with a little bit of paint, it'll look even better. And then here we go, we've got Black Mask Thug with the tiger claws. He was fine to put together, honestly, no real issues. You can see with all of them, there's not a lot of green stuff with these Black Mask Thugs. They all look pretty good. I quite like this one. I quite like this guy's mask. I know the masks aren't for everyone. It's definitely very, you know, thematic to Black Mask, but it doesn't really work for just general organized crime. It always reminds me of the Terrible Threesome, if anyone remembers those guys with the animal masks, just those rich kids. Here is the Black Mask Thug with the gun. He's probably not the one that I'll use the most often. I figure Thug 4 is probably better than him. Not Thug 4, I did this before. It's Thug 5, I believe. So I think I've said before that the gunman trait on Thug 5 is probably better than the discharge trait on that guy. But there we are. He still looks pretty cool. And here we go, we've got another Black Mask Thug here. This is the guy with chains. Again, he was really easy to put together, just the arms there and the head, and it was a very simple process to stick him together and get him undercoated. And then we have Victor Zazz here. You can see here, there was a little bit of cleanup that was necessary for him, and around his chin and on his arms, and there's a little bit of a gap. Where is it? There's a little bit of a gap. That was sort of my inability to sort of glue it in kind of properly. Aside from that, one of the things that I've noticed with all the 40mm here is that the base is flush. It actually sits flush, so there's no green stuff needed to fill it in, unlike a lot of the older releases. And actually, that is something that swung it for Black Mask. The 40mm sits flush like so, whereas with the 60mm, see I've got that over here, it actually sort of, there's a little bit of a gap between the base and with the base, and that is ultimately what sort of swung me towards the 40mm base. That was the final decider. Here we go, we've got Fright here. She was really easy to put together as well, although her head there, you can see I put a little bit of green stuff. It was really hard to fit her. So the hair itself, focus here. The hair itself, there's like a gap in her high collar, and the hair is meant to slide through there, but it was really hard to get it on in such a way that there wasn't a huge gap between her neck and her body. So I just kind of admitted defeat and just green stuffed it up. And yeah, so she's pretty good. And then we have, Kozov here with the bionic eye. She was really easy to put together. The only difficulty was trying to line up her arm with her leg and getting it rested in a sort of sensible way. But other than that, it's a very dynamic pose. I really like this model actually. Although sort of on the base, she's looking down, so she's not looking forward very well, I think. But with the rocket launcher and stuff like that, she definitely looks she makes an impact on the board, right, with how she looks, unlike maybe someone like Black Mask. And then we have the Black Mask Thug 1, or 7 rather, from the expansion pack. Really nice classic model. I've given him a little bit of a Zenithal highlight because I'm probably going to paint him with a lot of contrasts. No difficulty here at all, just a tiny bit of cleanup and just the arm there. And then we come to my very unfortunate Adam West Batman. I finally got him put together. He is looking very weird, and I love it. It's got a very weird vibe about it. So obviously there was a there was an issue with the print of this character, and his head is sort of sunken into his body, and he looks so odd and so peculiar. I just adore it, really, to be honest. In terms of putting him together, he was fine to put together. I didn't quite clean up his arm well enough just because it was a little bit lazy. But aside from that, there's a little bit on his cape there as well I might need to put together. Yeah, he was fine. No real issues with him. Then we have Eraser. Eraser was a bit of a bother to put together just because the big base wouldn't sit flush on the... Yep, see, it's kind of coming up, and you can see the amount of super glue that's kind of spilled over the side that I was trying to do to try and keep it down. I probably should have just used some green stuff in hindsight, but there we are. Everything else was grand though. The Eraser itself, like at the top of his head, was really awkward to clean up just because it's got such a flat sort of surface area. So whenever I kind of cut off the edges a little bit, it made it look a little bit less clean. And then we have the Joker, Cesar Romero Joker. You can see I filled the base itself with green stuff there just because it's in cobblestones and it didn't really look very good with the surfboard, so I just literally just filled it up with green stuff. Aside from that, he was easy enough. I actually had to cut the little nib at the end of his foot just because the way he was fitting in, it looked kind of awkward. And even still, whenever he sits like so, you can see he's not quite facing forward, and I don't really like that, but it's basically sitting inside the little gap for the foot, so that's just how he is, I guess. I also finally got together the animated series Batman. So you can see there's a big gap there, but I basically think that that's okay because it's meant to be the coil, right? So I'm sort of happy enough with it having a bit of a gap there. I'm hoping that the paint will sort of hide that quite well. And it's the coil, it's the cape, so it's meant to sort of sit up a little bit, look like a different texture area. I'm looking forward to getting him painted. He should be easy enough, just a bit of grey and a bit of black. Then here we go, we've got Burt Ward Robin. He's grand. Oh, a little bit of cut away resin there on his leg. So he looks good. I think with a bit of paint on him, he's gonna look grand. Quite an interesting model. And here we come to the model that sort of inspired me to actually do this. So this is Jason Todd Robin. He is an interesting model. He has impetuous, he has a very dynamic pose, and he was absolutely awful to put together. So you can see here, this is a big mess. So originally, I sort of had to cut him from the little bit that sort of goes into the gap in the cobblestones. This foot here was originally sort of attached onto it, but it was a real mess. Trying to fit him in, and then he's got 3 points of contact with the base, right? He's got the hand, he's got the back leg, and then he's got this leg as well. And they don't fit on the base. So if you just keep them the way they are, if you put them in the way they're sort of supposed to go in, to me, I don't know what it was, I just couldn't fit it on the base. So I ended up having to do like all sorts of acrobatics really to try and get them to fit together. And eventually, I mean, this was, I tried to glue the legs on about 3 different times. By the end, I just green stuffed it on. I just kind of give up. I ended up just green stuffing everything, to be honest. Apart from the head was fine, but everything else was just absolutely awful trying to get together. So I'm not looking forward. I've magnetized him, but I'm not looking forward to trying to pull him on and off the Magna rack that I have. So be careful with that model. He is a bit of a bother. And then we have the Fixer here, and she was fine. She was absolutely a joy to put together. More models like that, please. So she was very, very easy. A very cool model. I'm probably going to be undercoating her white because obviously with her outfit there, and I'll probably do a little bit of Glyphhound grey so that it kind of has a little bit of a Neo-Cortex theme from Crash Bandicoot. And finally, we have Reaper. Reaper was actually fine to put together as well. He was just in sort of 4 parts, his hands, and then his head, and then finally his body, and honestly it all fit together fine. It was all grand, so he was quite easy to put together. So that's in terms of the building stuff. So a lot of that stuff was done literally sort of last night, but I've been painting over the last couple of days as well, and this is for the next battle report. So this is the Penguin. This is all from the Penguin Bat Box, from the older version of him. So this is the Penguin here. I basically painted him in German grey. I did his pants in Black Templar black, so with contrast there. And then I did the same with his hat, just to sort of give a little bit of contrast between his overcoat and his pants. And then I gave his waistcoat, I did that in cyan and yellow because I wanted to do his cravat in purple and have it stand out against it. I didn't really want to do him in a purple waistcoat. So I know the Penguin has a lot of purple about him, but I wanted to avoid that because I wanted to make him a little bit different from the Joker. Whoops, get in there. And then I went for, I think it was Nasdrag yellow for the fur, but then it didn't look very good, so I ended up going over that with Gorgonta. And I think that lightened it up a little bit, because I originally undercoated him grey. Put a little bit of white for the spats on his shoes, and then Black Templar for his hair, and then a little bit of gold in on his face, Kislev flesh there, and then I just put a little bit of Ragland flesh tone, and then a little bit of white on the hat. So not my finest work, but not awful either. And then here we go, we've got the Penguin Elite Thug. This is literally just Black Templar for the armor, Ultramarines blue for the jeans, and then Glyphon grey for the actual t-shirt underneath the armor, though a couple of layers to actually give that quite a bit of definition. That's actually quite a light sort of color, but if you go over it a couple of times, it makes it quite a bit darker. And then I went for kind of yellow. So I went for yellow on the gloves and on the actual boots there, because I was kind of going for like a penguin vibe. I wanted him to try and sort of as if he was cosplaying as a penguin, like he was a sort of hidden furry in the penguin's outfit. I don't really think I ended up going for it, because if I wanted to go for that, I probably should have painted at the front of his armor white. But yeah, there he is. And I think the yellow kind of came out all right. That was cyan in yellow there, and then just a little bit of leather for the snakebite leather for the belt. And then here we go. This is, well, she reminds me of Mercy, but she is Lark. And for her, it was really simple. Literally just Black Templar for the sort of bodysuit, and then Red Templar, Blood Templar, what is it? It's Blood Angels Red, that's it. I was getting confused with Black Templar. Blood Angels Red for literally the jacket, and with the boot, and with the gloves there as well. And then for the hair, I went for Iandin yellow, just to kind of seep into the gaps. And then I just kind of went over that with a little bit of Flash Gift yellow, just to make it a little bit more blonde. And then Raglan flesh again. So she was okay to paint, wasn't too bad. And then here we have a little penguin there, literally just Black Templar, a little bit of white, a little bit of Iodine yellow, and some red, and then Lead Belcher, metal, some Null Oil, sorted. These penguins were kind of a dream to paint, to be honest. I was kind of worried about them at first. I left them to the very end, but I think they kind of came out all right. You can say I went for a sort of Pingu look with the chest there, with a little bit of orange on it as well, a little bit of yellow for the flippers. But these were grand. There wasn't really a lot of detail to pick out on them. I like this one. This one's probably my favorite. So he's got little red rockets there. They are Blood Angels red, and then I've got the little rocket on the back, and I really like that. So very, you know, obviously based them on the Tim Burton sort of look there, the vibe. Here we go. We've got loose lips here. This is just a Leviathan blue for the coat, and then I just gave him, geez, what was this? I think this was camo green for the pants there. And then he's just been given Gorgonta fur for both his boots and for the fur on his coat. And then Black Templar over the shotgun, but it was over Lead Belcher. And then I've went Sotek green for the sort of colors you can see there with the base, as well as for the armband for him, and then just some red and then some white there for loose lips. So really nice model. I really like the vibe of all the penguin models. They were really nice to paint because it was very simple. It was just a couple of colors and then away they went. So Glyphhound grey there for the pants, basically the tracksuit bottoms, and then it was snakebite leather for the sort of biker jacket, and then Ustabi bone for the jacket, for like the fur at the top, of the leather jacket there, and then sort of camo green for his beanie hat, and then some red for his gloves, and then finally Sotek green once again for his armband. And he was really nice to paint as well. I think he came out really nice. Really happy with him. We've got the Penguin Lieutenant here. This is the big guy. Actually, originally, I put him on a smaller base and messed up, and then had to sort of rip him off and put him on a bigger base, because he's sort of, I mean, he's a big guy, but there's nothing really going on to make him deserve the bigger bases. If you compare him to some of the, you know, like Zazz, for example, he's got so much stuff going on his base, and you just have this guy, you know, the sort of second edition style where they just have a big base, but they're not really doing anything on it. Just a sort of whole host of colors. I gave him a red jacket there, so it was same again as Blood Angels red, and then Nazdrag yellow for the yellow fare in there, and then Leviathan blue for the beanie hat, Ultramarines for the jeans, Snakebite leather there for all the different sort of like straps, and then it was camo green and then Glyphhound grey were the two different, was the green and the grey there. So he looks pretty good. And then we have the Penguin Thug 1. So some funny stuff happened with this guy. So I painted him with the Ultramarines blue. I gave him the Arkellian green, I believe that his sort of jacket is here, just because it has a kind of plasticky look. I don't know if you've ever seen those sort of like windbreakers. And then I gave him camo green sort of shirt underneath, or jumper rather, underneath, and then snakebite leather for his gloves. So, and then I just gave him, it was a Black Templar, I believe, for his beanie. And then, so he's meant to actually have a knife in his hand, but that snapped off when I was putting them together and then painting him. So what I did was, he also has a sort of laser pointer. I just painted it red. So I think that was a nice save. I think that looks pretty good. Besides, he's more relevant for the laser pointer than for the knife. And then finally, we have the duck here for the penguin. This was a bit of a nightmare. So I got this undercoated in white. So everyone else, I undercoated them in gray. But for this duck, I undercoated him in white. And then I just went over them with Iod in yellow, and you can see there, so whenever you paint these big flat surfaces with a contrast, you get this sort of look, this kind of streaky look to it. I kind of knew that was going to happen, but I just kind of wanted to be lazy and hope that it would look okay at the end. It didn't really, so I just went over it, gave it flash kits yellow. I don't have like an air spray or anything like that, and I think that actually that would look really good on this duck. But I had to go over it with just the sort of normal painting. And then I put a little bit of Nuln oil there underneath, just to give a little bit definition. Just literally just Abaddon black for the eye. I did the Griffhound orange there, I believe it's called. It's yes, Griffhound orange. So what's the gray then? I think that's just glyph gray. Yeah, this was Griff orange. And then I did the same with the teeth there. I don't really know what's up with the teeth, to be honest, so I just kind of went over it with a little bit of orange. Went over it with the pink, just with the brightest pink I could find, and then the bright blue as well, because it's meant to be sort of like a kid's toy, right? I think it kind of came out okay. I did the buttons. It's not looking great, so obviously you can sort of put the penguin together inside the duck, but I decided to put him on the smaller base just because I can kind of play with this sort of, you know, and pretend that the penguin's inside it. Whereas this way I can play with him. You know, if I ever get a duplicate, I guess I'll probably glue him inside this one. Next up, we had the Electrocutioner. He's going to be part of my Soldiers of Fortune list that's in the next battle report. So I decided to get him painted. I just went for Leviathan blue, really, to be honest, is everything. Just underneath all the straps, and then the straps themselves are snakebite leather. I think that they came out really well. I really love the thing about lots of straps and snakebite leather. I think Games Workshop do a lot of straps. And the reason for that is because it really helps break up the kind of monotone, and I think they came out really well here. Lead belcher there, paint for the sort of all the metal bits I could pick out. I just went over them with a lead belcher, did a bit of gray there underneath, and then finally I painted red and yellow for the wires. Reminds me a lot of Condiment King, now that I'm looking at it, so ketchup and mustard. But I wanted to sort of mix up the different colors, especially because Electrocutioner, he's all messed up in his face. So I just went over with a contrast flesh tone, and it came out really dark. And then I went over voluptuous pink over his, you know, sort of burnt side of his face where he's been kind of electrocuted. And I think it came out really well, actually. So I think he's a little bit darker than what he is in sort of Arkham Origins, but I'm pretty satisfied with him. The yellow, I just had to pick that up with a nice brush. It doesn't look amazing, but I think it looks okay. I think he's come out quite well. I'm actually pretty happy with him, which is unfortunate because he's not the strongest model ever around. Next up, we have the worst model in the game. This is the Militia Lieutenant. Absolutely rubbish. I would never use him, but decided to paint him anyway, just because, you know, sometimes you just kind of have to fill up the reputation points. So I gave him just the gray there again, and then I went over him with Gorgonta underneath there for the legs, and then lead belcher paint there. So I didn't spend much time on him because he doesn't really deserve it. I went over just the Blood Angels red on the top for the beret, and then on the scarf as well, just so that the actual, just to kind of match with the hat, so it wasn't just out of nowhere. Then Black Templar, and then a little bit of Warped Stone Glow Green there for the actual goggles. I think he turned out quite well. And then we have this guy. This is Militia II, I believe. And I literally just went for Black Templar for his body armor, and then Blood Angel's Red for his sort of outfit, and then a little bit of Lead Belcher here and there. You can see I dry brushed the Lead Belcher, trying to give it like as if it was painted Black Templar, and then I just kind of dry brushed it with the Lead Belcher to give it like a sort of like a scuffed look, as if it's been used a lot. It's just like a bit of tin, bit of metal. And then I did a German grey there. Or sorry, no, it was light grey. It was a Vallejo light grey there for the helmet. And then again, I just went for a green there, just the brightest green I could find. And then snakebite leather for that and for the gloves. And yeah, and then just some streaks of Abaddon black throughout the body, just to give a sort of military look there. And then finally, this is Elite Op, or as I like to call him, Dr. Cox from Scrubs. And he's got the grey there, just once again, more grey. Once I got that grey, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then Leviathan Blue, I went for like a very, very dark color scheme for this guy. And then I went for snakebite leather on all the different pouches there, just to kind of bring out sort of a contrast against these sort of darker tones. And then just Black Templar for the gun, and then Lead Belcher there. And then this is Nazdragi Yellow with a little bit of flash kits, just to sort of heighten it up a little bit, and then Kislev Flesh without too much flesh tone, too much shading done there. And I think he turned out quite well. And then finally, we have Scarecrow, so he will be leading the Soldiers of Fortune in the next battle report. I was sort of not sure about how to go with this, but I ended up going for the orange for the Griffhound orange, and you can see here, I think it turned out really, really well. So I wasn't sure what colors to go for. I went for snakebite leather on the face, and I think that turned out really well. And it's just a kind of combination of greens and reds and things like that. I tried to go for a green kind of color scheme. I went for the grey on the arms there, on the hand, and then with Lead Belcher just over it, and a bit of Lead Belcher on the body, and then grey on the legs there with some Lead Belcher for sort of the for the metal. This kind of like his, you know, his support for his broken leg or sort of injured leg, and then just literally snakebite leather for the straps. And then Black Templar for the boots with a little bit of green there, just to sort of, you know, tie it all together. And then I just kind of threw down some Warped Stone Glow on the ground, just to be sort of like fear toxin. And I think he came out really well. I'm actually really pleased with him. So there wasn't too much technique used in this guy, but I think he kind of comes out, he looks kind of dark and edgy, which was kind of the vibe I'm going for, because that was the edge. That was kind of the vibe that they went for in Arkham Knight. So that's everything that I've been up to the last like 2 weeks, I would say. I'm going to try and maybe do these a little bit more frequently, because I do get up to quite a lot with the sort of hobby stuff. But I wanted to get the penguin stuff painted ASAP, because I wanted to get them on the table and try them out. I was really looking forward to playing them, or at least seeing them in action rather. I'm not going to be playing them, I'm going to be playing the Soldiers of Fortune, because I haven't had too much experience with their actual deck. So I'll be playing them soon, I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that goes, going up against the Penguin, so a nice sort of classic Scarecrow versus Penguin, Villains of Batman game coming up soon on the channel, so hopefully I'll have that up by next week. And yeah, so, and then after that I'm going to start painting all of the Organized Crime, so I'm hoping to have those all done soon enough for the battle report after that, because I'm looking forward to playing as Organized Crime again with Black Mask this time. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed that little sort of update of the channel, where, you know, what I've kind of been working on. And yeah, I will probably try to keep these up more often, just as and when I sort of do stuff. I don't know if they're going to be a regular thing or not, but sure, we'll see. And if you did enjoy this, please just throw a thumbs up on the video, so that lets me know whether or not this is something I should probably continue to keep you guys updated on that. And subscribe to the channel, honestly. If you're looking for, if you're enjoying some of this hobbyist stuff, especially the Batman miniature game things, if you are enjoying that, just let me know by giving me a little subscription there, and that'll keep you up to date with all of the channels, all of the videos rather that are coming out on the channel. So thanks everyone for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.